the relationship was not good when I was, let's say, in my toxic relationship. But I was still choosing to stay in it. So in order for me to stay in it, I had to keep it a secret. I had to hide a lot of the aspects of my relationship, because I would go to my friends all the time and talk about the horrible things that were happening, and then I would take him back. So I eventually had to hide it.
Hey, what's going on? Welcome to the Dating Detox Show, where we do our best to give you some practical dating advice that might actually help. I'm Eric Wooten, and with me is Megan Toma. How you doing, Megan?
I'm doing fantastic. Thank you. Excited for today's topic.
Awesome. I know this
Mhm.
is perfect because you are, of course, a master coach that helps people end toxic dating cycles. And what we're going to talk about today are what are some characteristics or signs of toxic people? I think one of the I think probably the two questions, right, in dating are what should we be looking for, which is going to be next week's show on signs of healthy people, and then what should we be looking out for. And so
Yeah.
today is what do you need to be looking out for? Because I know you have them all the time. I've had just this week, I've had two conversations with people around dating relationships where I'm just like, hello, what would why would you even want to be in a relationship with what you're
Mhm.
experiencing? I'm confused. Help me understand how this makes sense. And and obviously everybody's got different stuff. Sometimes you have people that are honest about it and they're kind of like, well, it's been so long since I've had somebody and I finally have somebody, and it's like, if I don't make this one work, am I going to find somebody again? So you have some people that are just have been lonely and so are
Mhm.
willing to overlook. But I'm like, that's not.
Mhm.
Do you want to endure that day in day out? That doesn't sound very enjoyable. So
There's so many reasons why we get caught up and sort of stuck in the web of a toxic relationship. I was even having a conversation the other day about how it's so interesting when you study and learn more about the brain, which I know you don't love to do necessarily, but we know that our brains
I
are
actually
wired
do.
for
I kind
negative.
of geek out
You
on
do?
neuro stuff. So yeah.
Okay. So our brains are wired for negativity, right? That's how they're wired. Why is it in this one area though? In the realm of relationships, we just love to just see the good in people. And we try to bypass, minimize, not notice the very clear signs of someone that's like, "Ooh, this is looking like it's going towards a pretty toxic road." Well, we do, and there's lots of reasons, but
Right.
yeah, we've got some really good signs to share for sure.
Yeah, so this is gonna be fun. So here's what we're gonna do. I'm
Mhm.
gonna throw a sign out and hear your perspective on it. So we'll ping pong back and forth, and then you'll throw out
Um,
one, and we can see. And some of them may overlap, but I think it'll be fun. So let me
yeah.
throw out the first one. I think a sign of uh, toxic is such a strange. Well, we're just going with it because
Yeah,
toxic is such a strange word that sometimes people are. But
I
anyway,
know.
this is an unhealthy toxic sign in somebody when they have a lack of empathy.
Okay.
So they either are unwilling or unable to show empathy for your feelings, your struggles. Maybe they dismiss your emotions. And I think if somebody cannot put themselves in your shoes, I think sometimes this is dangerous.
Yes, completely agree. Okay, you want me to go with the next one?
Yeah. Hold on. Right on
or,
that.
or
On
speak
that. A
on that?
thought. No, a thought, because a thought just happened to me, and I was having a
Okay.
conversation. I was having this conversation not too long ago, and it was with a couple, and one of them, the female, was saying something about there was a situation that her fiance was in. He's a guy, and she was uncomfortable with it, and she expressed it to him, and she basically felt like he was like, well, whatever, I'm going to do whatever I want anyway. So as we were talking through the situation, one of the comments he made was, because I asked, are you willing to be influenced or held accountable
Hmm.
by your future wife if there's something that's uncomfortable? And he made the comment to the effect of, it needs to make sense to me. Like it, and so I said, wow, that's a dangerous position to be in, because basically if she can't make it make sense to you, then you now feel like you're justified in dismissing her perspective, her feelings, her experiences. And I was like, I think we want to, this was just a perfect example of lack of empathy to me. Cause I was like,
Yes.
we want to be in a place where even if you don't fully understand why they feel that way, you don't fully even agree with thinking they should feel that way. Part of healthy relationship is I'm willing to make adjustments based on what you share your experiences with me or in the relationship are. And so I said that sets a dangerous precedence where basically if you
Mhm.
ever say, I don't know if I agree. He was basically going to motive. He's like, I feel like that's not really her motive. I feel like she really was trying to, whatever, fill in the blank, control me, but she was just saying it this way. And so I'm like, okay, so you can dismiss what she says if you ever think it's not from the right motive.
Yes. Okay. I love that you use that example because it doesn't have to be a huge example of I've hurt myself or I'm crying to somebody and they don't even care. They lack empathy. As simple as that, that very dismissive behavior. By the way, I've been told that before by more than one man. It's like it needs to make sense to me. Okay.
Wow.
And yeah, and I don't see anything wrong. Part of, I think, a healthy communication skill is like, tell me more about that. Like, I want to
Yeah.
understand your view more. Sure. But that's, it's not the end all of it. You don't have to, it doesn't have to make sense to the person in order to love and honor and cherish and respect the other person. You're going to have different
Yeah.
thoughts about things and different feelings about things. And you want a partner that can do that.
Yeah, and can be
Okay.
well. So I agree. I agree. I think it's good to try to gain understanding, like help me understand, help it make sense. But also at the end of the day, if I care about you and I'm in a relationship with you, and you are telling me this experience or that situation or this thing is impacting me negatively in this way, even if it doesn't make sense to me, I've got my assumption would be if I value you enough and I think highly enough of you, even if I can't understand, I'm going to believe the best. I'm not going to believe, oh, you're
Right.
manipulating me. You're trying to, I'm going to take you at your word and say, okay, I don't see it. I
Mhm.
don't get it. But if that's the way it is, yeah, I'm not trying to make you feel that way. So
Yeah. So good and so important. Whew.
yeah. So lack
Okay.
of empathy. All right. Give me one.
So number two is you hide aspects or the entire relationship from friends and family. So this happens over time, at least it did with me, where I start. So there was well, we'll get to the ups and downs in a relationship, but the relationship was not good when I was, let's say, in my toxic relationship. But I was still choosing to stay in it. So in order for me to stay in it, I had to keep it a secret. I had to hide a lot of the aspects of my relationship because I would go to my friends all the time and talk about the horrible things that were happening, and then I would take them back. So I eventually had to hide it. So it's not so much that example isn't so much a sign in someone else. It's almost more of a signal that you could be engaging or dating someone that isn't the best for you, or you're not in the best situation if you're having to hide a lot or the entire relationship from people that love and care about you.
Oh, that's good. When you first said it, I was thinking in the other person. Which I
Mm-mm,
think could be
mm-mm.
equally toxic if you're
Could
dating
be.
somebody who is hiding you, right? I'm like, that's a little
Yes,
shady, right? It's like they don't want you
that's
to
a
meet
great
their
one too.
friend. They don't want you, you know, the people who post a bunch on social media
Mhm.
but never post about you. And then when you ask
Huh?
about it, they go, well, I just don't like to show a whole lot of this aspect of my life, or you know. So
Yeah.
I thought you were talking about that, but no, that's good. That's the other one's
Mhm.
equally as toxic. But yeah, you're saying if I find myself not wanting to
Mhm.
share again because I already know my friends and family are going to be like, dude, you're an idiot. What are you doing with that
Yep.
person? Oh, yeah.
Hmm.
Oh, that's good. Yeah.
Yeah. Fun times.
Yes. We might just shut the show right there. Done. If that's
And
you, go fix it. So, all right, here's another sign. Frequent blame game. So, anytime you try to bring something rather than them fully accepting responsibility, they want to shift blame on others, including you, so people gaslighting obviously falls into this, right? Where they make it feel like it's your fault, or for whatever ill you bring to them, they justify it or explain it by something either you've done or somebody outside has done. The reason I was because they or you fill in the blank, instead of just owning, like, come on, man, we can own some of our stuff even if we don't think we were mostly in the wrong.
Accountability is one of my favorite qualities in a man now. Truly,
Right?
just to be able to own your stuff or apologize, even if it doesn't make sense to you, apologize. Like, people often say, well, that wasn't my intention. I'm sorry I hurt your feelings, but that wasn't my intention.
Sure.
Okay, but that was still the impact. It's okay that it wasn't your intention, but it still impacted me. And can you like notice that and apologize for it? So
Yeah.
accountability,
Some people
very
have
important.
such a hard time feeling wrong, like
Yeah.
whatever it is inside of them that, and I get it. Some people already feel inherently bad about themselves and have a hard time receiving feedback because it's like confirmation of what I already feel. But it's like, man, come on, man, we got to take responsibility. Even if you thought it was, I mean, somebody could literally yell at me, throw something at me, get in a big fight with me, and I, raise my voice and curse back. I can still own my part, even if I was like, what I did compared to what you did is not even close. I can still own my part and be like, listen,
Yes.
hey, I apologize for losing my temper. I was ducking
Yeah.
from some frying pans and, remote controls and stuff, but I still I still can own what I did.
Yeah. Really important. And I'm just going to out myself right now because I'm just going to keep it real like always. When I was in this experience, that is often what I would do. I would almost compare his wrongdoings to my wrongdoings. And while I would still apologize, because that's just my nature, I'm normally the one to always apologize first. I would still try to sort of like put myself on this pedestal and be like, well, but I didn't do this, 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 and this. If we were in a court of law, you'd be the one going to prison, not me.
Sure.
Woo! Yeah, it's not good. But again, when we're in these kinds of relationships and dynamics, we we begin to act out of character. Just like my example about isolating from friends and family. That's not what you do normally. That's not you. And these relationships, they'll bring out the worst. So,
Right.
yeah.
Good. All right. Give me another one.
Yes, which leads me to the very popular, most people that have experienced this will recognize this one. It's the emotional roller coaster, the constant highs and lows. It is as if it's a never ending cycle of fighting, repairing, fighting, repairing. I, for me, when it started to get really bad, it was every week. I would think to myself, I wonder if we can get through one week without a blow up, without an argument. It was nonstop. So that's not healthy. I would
Right.
tell myself like, well, we just have a lot of passion. We just he's got a lot going on, whatever it is. I would just make excuses all the time, which that should probably be on our list if you find yourself making excuses
Right.
all the time. But I got so conditioned to it. It was truly like living my life on a roller coaster ride, and I got so used to it. It wasn't until I finally got off the ride that I realized just how sick I had been the entire time.
Yeah.
So, yeah,
It's funny you said
yeah,
that, we're just passionate people, right? I mean,
yeah.
that's some of the problem, right? With people, especially you start talking about
Mhm.
attachment styles, and it's like the anxiety that comes with that, are we going to fight, break up,
Yeah,
repair? The elation of restoration of the relationship is so fantastic that, yeah, some
yeah,
people who are used to that have a hard time with the absence of chaos. It'd be
yeah,
like, this
yeah,
relationship's boring. There's no passion. No, this is healthy. You're not in
yeah.
a fight or flight your whole life. Yeah.
You just get so used to it. I did, at least. I got so conditioned to it. And, I teach women this and they don't love it. And it's sort of the unsexy part of healing and dating again after one of those roller coaster ride relationships. you're going to have to go on some boring dates. You're going to have to kind of experience some real like baseline neutral, it's no fireworks kind of feelings and experiences to kind of recalibrate your baseline because you're so used to the intensity, the intense fighting, the intense makeup. But once you start to kind of come back down from that, you level out. And healthy, I mean, the intense amount of love that I have now been able to experience in healthy relationships is unlike any sort of, high that I experience in a toxic relationship. It is so much better. It is so much better because that high in a toxic relationship isn't really a high. It's like a false high. So
Yeah. Well, good. So keep your roller coasters to the amusement parks and not in
yes.
your relationship. I like it. All right. Here's
Yeah.
another one. Toxic trait, constant criticism. So somebody who just habitually is critical or belittles or points stuff out, obviously on one side, over time, that's going to erode self-esteem. That's going to, self-worth is going to be in there. But it also becomes a tool to control. If it feels like all these things are consistently pointed out about me, because they could be realistic things, right? Areas I need to work on. But if you're consistently on them, it kind of gives you the upper hand to say, that you're the project in the relationship. And so, that person at some point is going to feel like, well, who am I to say anything back? Because I have
Yeah.
all these things. So, it doesn't feel good, period. But when those criticisms are actually resonate with you and are accurate, it puts you in a position you don't want to be in.
Yes. And something that came to me as you were sharing about that reminded me that I just want to add in here. It's very consistent with the emotional roller coaster experience. Sometimes people with these unhealthy tendencies will love bomb you, right? They'll say all the great things and then they'll slide in the criticism. And then they'll slide in a few more. And we get so conditioned by the first initial hit of the love bombing that we'll take the criticism just to try to get back to the love that they presented in the beginning. It's so
Hmm.
confusing and it's so unnerving to our systems. But again, now that I can actually speak from the other side of it, experiencing healthier relationships, yes, we've talked about hard things, or he might share with me something that he'd like me to improve on or look at differently, but it's a completely different experience and different energy than the more toxic person who is coming at you with love bombing and you're the most best thing in the world and then like sliding in these really deep dicks. So
Right, because there's no middle stuff, right? It's like you're the most amazing ever, and then you're
that
horrible. I'm like, how I'm probably neither. Can we be like, I had a good moment and a not as good moment? Can we be like right in
yeah,
here, maybe? Yeah,
in the middle somewhere. Yeah.
right. All right, give me another one.
It's mine. Okay. Another one is excessive jealousy or controlling behavior. So they exhibit either, it could even be mild jealousy, but normally it's pretty intense jealousy and possessiveness. And it leads to that controlling behavior. I'm not sure if I've ever shared this actually on this podcast. I think I've talked about it before. I wasn't even allowed to wear, like a sports bra or crop top when working out when in my prior relationship, or I wasn't,
Need a
I'm
need a baggy size large T-shirt over the top of that,
that's
or what?
correct. That's correct. Yes. And I'm a dancer. I'm a hip hop dancer. And I love to dance. And I remember being told, you can't, if you go to a wedding with your friends and I'm not there, you're not allowed to dance. Like at a wedding. It's not like I'm going to the club. I'm going to a wedding. No, you can't dance. So being in these situations, it's like it will rob you again from what makes you you. What,
Yeah,
how you want to dress, how you want to spend your day, if you want to go dance at a wedding. And I would never do anything out of integrity to hurt my relationship, right? Again, I'm not going to the club at 2 a.m. to go grind up on some dude. Very different
sure.
experience. It's just what makes me me. I'm a dancer. I love to dance. And I want to dress however I want to dress, which isn't very revealing. So that controlling behavior is a real it's a real big sign to look for. That is, to me, one of the scariest, because that, to me, that quality, that's one that can get worse and worse and worse
Oh,
over time.
for sure. For sure. Because again, it's not, now it's one thing if you do things on a regular basis that causes insecurity, right? It's like I'm chatting to
Yes.
people I shouldn't, I'm crossing
Right.
boundaries, I don't have healthy boundaries. Um, that, obviously you can be in control of changing, but when you're not doing any of those things and it's just the other person, it's never ends, right? So you may think, okay, well, let me adjust here, here, and here, and that should satisfy it. But if it's the person and it's something internal to them, it doesn't. You can satisfy these three issues, and then there will be issues 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Yeah, I mean, it's the rest of your life, right? Because
Rest of your life.
you can't think through every scenario possible. Now you start having those conversations. You invite them to the work Christmas party. Sure look like you were enjoying talking to your boss over there. You're like, dude, I can't even, I look at somebody, did I talk to somebody? So yeah, that'd be at some point
It
that
puts you in a
becomes
constant
impossible.
state of anxiety, constant
Yeah.
state of anxiety. And that is how I learned to start withholding things for fear of his reaction. I didn't want to, I didn't even want to say, oh, I ran into my ex-boyfriend at the grocery store and said hello. Oh my gosh, if he knows that, he's going to lose my, well, what happened? Well, did you do this? Why'd you even have to talk to? I mean, it's a constant state of anxiety that I no longer live in. So thank God for
Right.
that.
No, and it's funny because what you just said, I actually talked to a couple about that because one of them is insecure and tends to be over jealous. And
Mm,
what I told that person was, the way you react, basically when you make them pay, all
mm,
you're going to do is force them into a position where when a situation arises, instead of their first instinct being, let me be open, honest, and share with the person I love, they're going to pause for a minute and go, if I share, am I going to pay for it? And again, we all take responsibility. Nobody can force you to lie, but
right.
you can make somebody pay enough that when they hit the crossroads of wanting to tell you something, but knowing they will make you pay, we all will at some point be like, it might be better just not to say anything. And then what
Yep.
happens is if that situation comes up 2 months down the road and they find out, now you're all over them because they were dishonest, but it was really a situation you created. And so I said, your fears
Listen.
now are going to create more opportunities where there's nothing, but then it appears
Mm,
there's something because of the way you're acting.
mm.
And so yeah, that gets messy.
It is so messy. Dang, that's such a good segue into my next one, but you go next. I'll say it in a
No,
second.
go. If that's a good segue, you
You do
go. I'll
it?
go after. Go. Yeah, yeah,
Well,
yeah.
my next one is that they both consciously and unconsciously sabotage things. So they will sabotage themselves in that situation right there that you listed. That is a way to like sabotage your relationship. Um, and it goes further into they could sabotage your goals, they could sabotage, what you're trying to accomplish in the world, what you're trying to, anything. Um, but what I really experienced is, especially with the highs and lows part, it's almost as if once things started to get too good, we had to find a reason to ruin it, to sabotage it. Because on some unconscious level, one or both of us didn't believe, that we could really have a healthy love. So sabotage is a huge, huge part.
And
Yeah.
that could be, so you're saying it could be unconscious. Like I don't even really
Yep.
notice
Yes.
like the person who's jealous. I may not be intentionally trying to do that. But
Right.
then on the intentional side or the conscious side, it may be my fear is if you raise to a level in some area of your life that I don't feel like I measure up, I may lose you.
Yep.
So now
Yep.
now I want to sabotage your success
Yep.
or some of those things. Gotcha. Yeah, that would be toxic.
100%. 100%. I remember him being concerned, right, that I would outgrow him. He's like, you don't need to be doing all this like personal development stuff because I would outgrow him. And that would mean I would leave him. And that was his big fear. So a lot of this stuff is unconscious. People ask me that all the time. this manipulative behavior, do they know what they're doing? Is it intentional? Some of
Mm,
it is, but a lot of it's not.
yeah.
But also, it doesn't matter because look what's
Right.
happening.
Right.
It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
It's
It,
still, you're still getting hurt and abused in a lot of ways as well. So it doesn't matter if it's conscious or unconscious. That's what's happening.
yeah.
Yeah.
Still needs to be addressed, but
Yeah.
whether it's conscious or unconscious may determine their ability to adjust, right? If I don't know I'm
Right.
doing it, you bring it to me and I go, "Oh man, probably the reason I am is because I'm fearful. Let me work on that." The people
Mhm.
who are consciously doing it, they're just going to look you in the eye and tell you why that's not true and move on down the road anyway. So, no, that's
Yeah,
good.
and
That's good.
the awareness is important. Awareness is always half the battle. And I've even had the experience of men telling me, "I know this is from my childhood, and this happened because my mom did this and my dad didn't do that." And they know, it's like they know their trauma enough to like say it, but
Yeah.
then they do nothing about it. And we can have compassion for people to the degree they're willing to work on it. And
Yeah.
they're never willing to work on it. Or they'll go to therapy when things hit the fan for, I don't know, 3 months, maybe max, and then they just revert right back to their ways. Most of the time, almost all of the time. I don't like to speak in
Yeah.
absolutes, but most of the time.
No,
Yeah.
that's a good distinction. So there's awareness and there's working on it, which are different.
Yeah.
And then there's working on it solely to remove the pain of the moment or keep you around. And there's
Yeah.
working on it because I see value in being better and my motivation is me getting better, not me making sure you don't leave, right? So not all things are equal, right?
Huge, huge distinction. Yes, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Here's another one.
You're
Toxic
up.
trait is boundary violations. So the people who disregard the healthy boundaries you try to say, and then obviously they begin trying to control, like going back to controlling aspects of your life or your personal choices. But yeah, I think somebody who, when they are presented with clear and healthy boundaries from you, love to violate those and push right through them.
Exactly. And I love that you made the distinction that it's a clear and healthy boundary, which it should be. Um, I used to think when I would tell my ex, I just need space. And even our couples counselor at the time said, there's not an indefinite amount of space. Take anywhere from like 1 to 24 hours, and then you agree to come back because for the person that's really anxious, they need to know like you're coming back at a certain time. Fine. But that wasn't even honored. That would still be broken. And there was a really sick, unhealthy part of me that was like, oh, he just he can't be away from me. He just has to talk to me so much that he has to break that boundary. And then now coming out the other side, it's like, oh, that's what was going on. He was a world class boundary breaker. And that's not love. That's not healthy.
Yeah. And there's such a fine line sometimes, right? Because that the scenario you're presenting, it often happens in couples. You have one that really wants to tackle and resolve the issue right
Yeah.
now, and the other one may be like, I need some space, I need to process this. And on a hierarchy, the one who wants to tackle it now can feel and present themselves as kind of the more mature. Like, I'm the one that I really want to dig in, and because I value
Mhm.
our relationship and I want to make things better. The reality is you don't like the tension of conflict and you
Yeah.
want it gone because you want to feel good again. Your
Yes.
motivation is not as pure as you think, that I'm just, I want to make everything better. No, you hate the tension and the coldness and the separation that we have when there's conflict. So it looks like you're super proactive. I want to resolve things, but you don't like the feeling of us having tension, and you also don't like the feeling of me having the ability to say, stop, I need a break because now I'm in control. I need a break. Oh, so you
Yeah.
get to tell me when we're going to redo this. Well, yeah, because I'm overwhelmed and I can't do it. So sometimes it's a control issue. Sometimes it's, I hate the feeling of no peace, but it looks like, oh man, this is a great quality. They really want to push through. But that's the same person that's following you around the house, and you go in a room and close the door and they're banging on the door, right? But that's where it keeps going. Like they will not give you that space. That's good.
My unhealthy pattern that I lean more towards when I'm out of secure attachment is anxious. I'm more of the anxious person. That relationship, I was the avoidant. It's like you're only as secure as the person that you're with. And someone, when
Right.
their tendencies are so anxious, you'll almost default to the other pattern or the other attachment style. So it's just fascinating.
All right. You got another
Fascinating.
one?
Okay, mine, yes.
Okay.
My last one is emotional withholding. So
Oh,
this is when they withhold affection or support, um, typically by means of punishment and more control and even manipulation. Um, so and that can look like so many different ways and so many different examples. I have a very extreme example if you want me to share that.
yeah.
Yeah. So So my ex-fiance said, we were getting obviously married and we didn't have a prenup. And he was saying, you need to quit your job and come work for me. Otherwise, you're just trying to help another man's family. And if you don't agree to that, then you know what? We probably just need a prenup. And I just don't even know what to really think about this marriage. And totally like stonewalled, shut down, wasn't affectionate, wasn't loving, wasn't it was awful, 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 awful. And that's because, yes, he felt threatened. There were things that he wasn't willing to really look at as to why he was exuding that behavior. But it's just an awful feeling and experience when someone withholds love that way. So,
Yeah. And in that weird twisted way where like it's there's enough truth in it that you can begin to consider it. Like you
yes,
legitimately were working for another man, he was your boss, and your
correct,
efforts there were building his business. You're an employee, you're getting
correct,
a paycheck, but you weren't building equity necessarily. So there's
right.
enough truth in it where you go, wait, I actually am helping build some other man. So yeah,
Mhm.
why, there's enough truth. I mean, it's foolish, but
Yeah,
there's enough truth in it to at least get you to go, maybe, and then until you shake your head and you're like, what am I doing? No, you're an idiot. But yeah,
that's what a
that's
great
the scary part.
manipulator does. Hmm. There's always some truth mixed in there, always. And we should have added
Wow.
this to the list of how these people affect you and make you feel about yourself. Toxic dynamics, toxic people that have these toxic qualities, they will make you question and doubt yourself like nobody else. They will make you think, did I
Absolutely.
say that? Am I crazy? Am I helping another man's family? Should I quit my job? Which, by the way, I did. I did quit my job shortly after we called off the engagement, and my amazing boss at the time graciously gave it back to me. So, yeah, that's a that's a fun one. Hmm.
Wow. That story is a perfect lead into my last one, toxic
Good.
trait, which is
Yeah.
somebody who has an isolating influence. They
Yes.
attempt to isolate you from your support system, your family. Basically, they get you to be dependent on them and completely vulnerable to their influence in your life. And so that was a little bit of what he was doing there was, and if I got you over here, now that's one more thing. Now you're dependent on me financially because over here you're not.
Yep.
And so anybody who seeks to pull you away, and that can look a million different ways, right? They slowly start kind of criticizing some of your friendships or questioning your friendships, or you get in a fight with
Yep.
your parents, and it's like maybe your parents are a bad influence in your life, and again,
Woo.
there can be such little bits of truth in there that you start going, well, maybe there's a big difference between family and friends that you have conflict with at times and that you don't always agree with, and ones that are legitimately not for you. You should not be in a relationship. Every time your mom calls, you're in a bad mood for 6 hours. She makes you feel less than. That's a whole nother level. But the
Of
fact that we
course.
didn't get along or they said something that hurt my feelings, but those people who want the isolation, they're so good at finding that stuff and planting little
So
seeds. And
good.
are you sure? I don't think that friend is there for you as much as you are for them. And and then pretty soon, just you and them.
I'm having flashbacks right now. This feels like a conversation I had over and over and over again, and it would make me doubt myself and question myself all the time, because I didn't go to him looking for advice on what should I do about this friend, what should I do about the work, what should I do about this. He would, again, kind of like sneak it in, like the criticisms. She's really not that good of a friend to you, though. Have you ever
Right.
thought about, what about this, what about that? And oh man, there's always, as you said, there's some truth to that. There is some truth to that, but it would be blown up in a way that started to make me really consider my relationships, my friends, even my work. He's like, he doesn't have your best interest at heart. He doesn't want you to succeed. He hasn't done this or given you a raise or blah, blah, blah. I'm like, oh, maybe I should quit my job. It's my brain explodes just thinking about it. So
Oh, geez. Well, we
we don't
literally
want
could do
the,
this for like another probably 2.5 hours and not run out of them. But I think that's
yeah,
enough right there. If
okay.
you're listening and wondering who are some of the people you should avoid, what are some of the traits you should quickly address, and if they don't change, run from them. I think this is a pretty substantive list that people can run with.
Yeah.
So if you have not yet downloaded the free Modern Daters Playbook, or you've not grabbed Megan's what are those technically called? The text links we have for
Yeah, my
just text
dating,
responses.
yeah, text responses for dating. There's lots, and there's a bonus one in there now. So yeah,
Oh,
just some
perfect. So we
really
got
clever.
the links for all that stuff and other free resources in the show notes or description area on YouTube. So check those out, and we'll see you right back here next time.
Bye.